Problem 7 asks for us to change 13 over 20 to a decimal. 13 over 20 can also be rewritten to state 13 divided by 20. In other words, just like we did for problem 4, we will divide 13 by 20. 20 does not go into 13 evenly, so I know right away I'm going to have a decimal answer, and I'm going to add a 0. So now I need to know how many times does 20 go into 13. 20 times 5 is 100, so 20 times 6 would be 120, which would be just below 130. 20 times 7, 140, that's too high, so I know my answer is going to be 6. 6 times 0 is 0. 6 times 2 is 12. Subtract 0, 1. Well, we still want to figure out whether or not we're dealing with a terminal decimal or whether or not we are dealing with a decimal that continues to have more integers after that. So I'm going to add another 0, and we now see that 20 can go into 100. I already said 5 times. We'll check our answer. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 2 is 10. That subtracts down to 0, so our final answer will be 0.65. Now if we look at problem 7 and problem 8, they're very similar because they use the same original fraction. So we could very easily use our information from problem 7 to determine the percent for problem 8. And that is simply accomplished by multiplying our decimal fraction by 100. And we also should know by now that when we multiply by 100, that moves our decimal 2 places to the right. So our solution would be 65%. Looking at problem 9 now, order from least to greatest. It would be helpful to have all of these numbers in the same form, or at least somewhat close to the same form. So I have a fraction, I have a decimal, and I have a percent. Now, as we just talked about in the percent, in order for us to go from a decimal to a percent, we had to move our decimal 2 places to the right. The opposite is true if you're going from a percent to a decimal. If I have 12%, my decimal would be over here. So in order to change that to a decimal answer, I would move it 2 to the left, and that would give me 0.12. Now I know right away that 0.12 is less than 1.2, so I have 2 numbers that are somewhat in order. Now I need to figure out where 5, 6 is in that order. So I could do that the same way we did number 7, where we divided 13 by 20. I can divide 5 by 6, and it will not go into 5 evenly. So I'm going to get a decimal answer. So if I take 8 times 6, that will give me 48 with a remainder of 2. Still not terminal, so I can add a 0. 3 times 6 gives me 18 with a remainder of 2. If I continue to get a remainder of 2, I know this is going to continue being a 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, on and on and on repeating. So the value of that decimal is of that fraction is 0.83 repeating. Now I can look at my three numbers and put them in numerical order from least to greatest. My smallest decimal is the least, so 0.12, which represented 12%, so I need to order my original values from least to greatest. So 12% is my smallest number. 0.83 is definitely smaller than 1.2 because 0.83 has not even made it to 1. So that was derived from our fraction 5/6. And then our last number in our grouping is 1.2.